Bright Duty. Every student matters.
So we'll be working with the text now. Question number 1, first part. What trees does Mr. Wonka mention? Which tree does he says lives the longest? So which all trees Mr. Wonka mentioned? And which tree did he tell is the oldest tree? Alright, so the answer will be, for the first question, the answer will be Mr. Wonka mentions Douglas fir, oak and the bristlecone pine trees. And according to him, the bristlecone pine tree lives the longest. Pine tree lives the longest. So Mr. Wonka, he mentioned Douglas fir, oak and the bristlecone pine. I'll repeat the answer for you. Mr. Wonka mentions Douglas fir, oak and bristlecone pine trees. According to him, the bristlecone pine tree lives the longest. Coming to part 2. How long does this tree live? Where can you find it? So how long does bristlecone pine lives? And where can we find it? The answer will be the bristlecone pine tree lives for over 4,000 years. This tree is found on the slopes of Wheeler Peak in Nevada, USA. Alright, so the bristlecone pine tree lives for over 4,000 years. This tree is found on the slopes of Wheeler Peak in Nevada, USA. Now, coming to question number 2. How many of the oldest things, living things, can you remember from Mr. Wonka's list? Don't look back at the story. Do you think all these things really exist, or are some of them purely imaginary? So the list which Mr. Wonka had made, how much do we remember from that one? We do not have to look at the story. And what do you think? Are these things, the things in the list, are they real? Do they actually exist? Or are they imaginary? Well, let's write down the answer. If you ask me, I think most of them are imaginary. They are made up, right? Let's write down the answer. Mr. Wonka makes a long list of the oldest living things. It is difficult to remember all these things. However, some of them which I can remember are there is a pint of sap of the bristlecone pine, right? So I'll write a pint of sap from a 4,000-year-old bristlecone pine. What else was there? Yes, there was an egg. An egg laid by a 200-year-old tortoise. the tail of a 51-year-old horse in Arabia. What else? There was another tail, right? The tail of a 207-year-old giant rat from Tibet. And the knuckle bones of a 700-year-old cattle from Peru. Yeah? Well, I remember all these things. How much do you remember? You have to write on your own. I don't think all these things may be real. Some of them seem just to be imaginary. Right? So here's the answer for question number 2. The answer is Mr. Wonka makes a long list of the oldest living things. It is difficult to remember all these things. However, some of them which I can remember are a pint of sap from a 4,000-year-old bristlecorn pine, an egg laid by a 200-year-old tortoise, the tail of a 51-year-old horse in Arabia, the tail of a 207-year-old giant rat from Tibet, and the knuckle bones of a 700-year-old cattle from Peru. I don't think all these things may be real. Some of them seem just to be imaginary. Question number 3. Why does Mr. Wonka collect items from the oldest things? Do you think this is the right way to begin his invention? So do you actually think that this is the right way to collect things and start the invention? What do you think? Let's write down the answer for this one. In his invention, Mr. Wonka wants the things to grow old. That is why he collects items from the oldest living things. I think this is the right way to begin his invention, and it gave him positive results too. Also. Right? This is the answer. In his invention, Mr. Wonka wants the things to grow old. That is why he collects items from the oldest living things. I think this is the right way to begin his invention, and it gave him positive results also.
Coming to question number 4. What happens to the volunteer who swallows 4 drops of the new invention? What happens? And what is the name of the invention? So what happens to the volunteer? I am not writing the full answer, I am just giving you the pointers. What happens? He started wrinkling, right? His hair started falling off. Hair fell off. His teeth fell off. He becomes old. 75 years of age. What is the name of the invention? What name did Willy Wonka give to his invention? It was called as Vita Wonk. Right? So this answer, you can write on your own. I have given you the pointers. What happened to the volunteer who swallowed the 4 drops? He started wrinkling, his hair started falling off, his teeth started falling off, and he became old in just few moments after swallowing the drops. 75-year-old fellow he became. And the invention was called as Vita Wonk. Alright? Now, working with the language. What do you call these insects in your language? Now you have to find out what do you call these insects in your language. Your language can be any, Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, Tamil, Urdu, whatever. It could be any. So you have to find out what these insects are called in your language. How do these insects affect your health? Have a discussion in the class. Now you have to discuss how these insects, they can affect our health, as in how they can, how unhygienic they can make the food or the surroundings or the environment around us, and how that unhygienic environment can affect our health. Alright? So this is a discussion which has to happen in the class, or you can have it with your family members since the class is not happening. You can make this kind of discussion, have this kind of discussion with your family members, your siblings, your friends. You can make a group of your friends, and on telecalls you can do this kind of discussion, right? Coming to question number 2, fill in the blanks in the recipe given below with words from the box. Now we have to choose the words from this box and fill in the blanks of this recipe. The recipe is called as easy palak dal. Ingredients 1, what? Onion. Let's go back to the box. Okay, so we have taken 1 onion, 1 cup dal is there, 2 thin green chilies are there, dash a teaspoon red chili powder. What do you think? How many teaspoons? We'll write 4 teaspoons probably, or half. We can write half. We'll write half a teaspoon red chili powder, 8 small bunches of palak, 2 dash, 2 what? 2 tomatoes. We write 2 tomatoes. Salt to taste. Now we'll quickly finish this off. Wash and cut the vegetable. Dash the palak. What do we do with the palak? We shred it and that's it. Wash and cut the vegetables. Shred the palak, shred as in chop. Put everything in a pressure what? Cooker. Pressure cooker. Let the cooker whistle 3 dash. 3 what? 3 times. Let the whistles come for 3 times. Then switch it off. Fry a few cumin seeds in dash and add to the palak dal. Where will you fry the cumin seeds? In oil. So we write oil and add to the palak dal. Why do you think we have done this exercise of recipe? We are not here learning how to make palak dal in English. Well, this is just to give you an idea or an example what a recipe actually is. Recipe are the ingredients and the procedure or method of making a particular thing. Okay? So this is the purpose. Coming to question number 3. A family tree is a diagram that shows the relationship between the different members of a family. Fill in the family tree given below with names, ages and other details you think are relevant. You may even take photographs if you have them. Put up family tree up in the class. So this is a self-attempt activity. You have to make a family tree. Then you start with your great-grandmother or grandfather. Okay, this is great-grandfather, great-grandmother, then grandfather and grandmother, then great-aunt, great-uncle, then uncle-aunt or mother-father, mother-in-law, father-in-law, cousin, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, sister, myself, husband, brother-in-law. So this is a kind of family tree that you have to make up. You can write the ages. If you have pictures, you can paste the pictures of the relatives, whoever are there, and you can make this family tree. I'm sure you all must have made a family tree in your earlier classes as well. So this is, kind of an activity which brings fun. Oh, we have it further. Nephew, niece, son-in-law, daughter, son, daughter-in-law, these are children. Then grandchildren, granddaughters, husband, granddaughter, grandson, and then great-grandchildren, great-grandson, great-granddaughter. Okay, so this is the family tree that you can make. Next, speaking exercise, using do for emphasis. Now this is an exercise where we are using do, the word do, to give the emphasis on that particular action. Charlie asks, what did happen? This is a way of asking the question, what happened, with emphasis. Suppose I would ask you, suppose two kids are fighting, and then as a teacher I call the two kids and then I ask them, what happened? This is a general question. But to give the emphasis on this action, what happened, I can ask, what did happen? So did will give the emphasis on the activity of that fight. Correct? So I'm asking you, what did happen? So did will give the emphasis. Did or do words are used to give emphasis, to give focus or strength to the action which has happened. Given below are few emphatic utterances. Say them to your partner. Let your partner repeat your utterance without the emphasis. Your partner may also add something to show he or he disagrees with you. So this is an activity where there is a conversation between you and your partner. Your partner has, whatever you speak, your partner has to repeat that without giving the emphasis, as in without using the word do or did. He can add something extra to show that his disagreement or that he agrees to whatever you say. The starters are, if you are saying, I did study, and your partner is asking you, you studied. I don't believe you. Look at your marks. You are telling that you studied, but you never said, I studied. Instead, you said, I did study. That means you're giving emphasis to the word study. You're telling, you are focusing, you are putting pressure on this word study, that you actually studied. And your partner is, he's countering you back that you studied. I don't think so because you haven't got good marks. Now you are saying, I did go there. You could have also said, I went there. But you did not say that. You said, I did go there. That means you're putting pressure on the word on the action that you had gone to a particular place. Correct? So your partner asks you, you went there. Then, now you say, I do play games. Then your partner has to give an answer to this. I do play games. Your partner may tell you, your partner can say, you can't play games. And Pawan can't get through. As in he's countering you that he cannot play games. He does read his books. And the partner has to reply in either agreement or disagreement without using the word do or did. The partner can say he does read his book. You can't read books. This is a very simple statement in this agreement. Okay, so this way you have to make this conversation with your partner, with your friend or a sibling, where you are telling the things, putting emphasis, and he is either answering in disagreement or agreement without focusing or emphasizing on the state. Now coming to the writing part. Now the first part is make a list of the trees Mr. Wonk mentioned. This we have done earlier. We all know what all trees he has mentioned, so you have to make that list. This you are going to do on your own because we have already done this orally earlier. Where do these trees grow? This is also mentioned in the chapter where the trees grow. Try to find out from an encyclopedia. You may find out from Google or an encyclopedia. Write a short paragraph about 2 or 3 of these trees. So you can write a paragraph about oak tree. You can write a paragraph about cedar tree or Douglas fir or pine tree. You can talk about any of these and write a short paragraph about any of these. You have to first write down the list of the trees Mr. Wonk had mentioned. And once you have written down the list, you have to write down where do they grow. Each one of them. You can find it from the encyclopedia where each one of them grows. And once you are done with activity number 1, part number 1 of question 1, part number 2 of question 1, then you have to write the part number 3, which is the short paragraph. Alright? Coming to part 2 of question number 1, name some large trees commonly found in your area. Find out something about them. How old are they? Who planted them? Do birds eat their fruit? And write 2 or 3 sentences about each one of them. So in this question, we have to find out about some large trees in our area. So wherever you stay, in a village or countryside or a city or a town, wherever you stay, you have to find out some really, really large trees, and you have to find few things about them. First, how old are these trees? Second, who planted them? It could have been some gardener or some resident of that particular locality or just anyone. You have to find it out. And thirdly, do birds eat their fruit or not? If the trees are bearing fruit, you have to find out. You can probably go and check if the birds are eating the fruits or not. Right? And you have to write 2 or 3 sentences about each one of them. Suppose you find an Ashoka tree in your vicinity, a banyan tree probably, a mango tree. So you have to write down a list of the trees you find in your vicinity. How old are they? Who planted them? And do the birds eat their fruit or not? And once you're done with this, write 2 or 3 lines about that particular tree. Or probably you can write 2 to 3 lines about each of the trees you have mentioned. Okay? Coming to question number 2, find out something interesting about age or growing old and write a paragraph about it. Following are a few topics suggested as examples. You have to find out something interesting, probably an interesting fact about age or growing old. How somebody grows old, why a person grows old, and you have to write a paragraph about it. Few topics as examples are suggested. The first one would be the age profile of a country's population. Does it have more young than old people or vice versa? What are the consequences of this? For example, the age profile of a country's population. As in, you can talk about India or probably any other country. Suppose if you talk about India, you have to talk about the age profile. As in, what do you think? Till what age people live? They live healthily, happily in India. What is the average age of a person in India? So we can say somewhere around 65 to 70 or 75, right? Then we have to talk about, does India have, I'm just giving you an example of India. You can take any country. So I will talk about India. So I'll ask, does India have much younger population or the older population? I would say probably, older population is, younger population is much more in India than the older ones. Or vice versa, it can be vice versa in some other country as well. And what are the consequences of this? If we have to talk about, if the younger generation is much more in India than the older population, then what are the consequences? Consequences means what are the results So we have to talk about what are the results of having more of a younger generation, a younger population in our country. This you have to do on your own. Alright. Second part, how can we tell how old a tree, a horse or a rock is? Do you know how can you tell? Alright, we'll talk about it in a while. The third part, what is the life expectancy of various things and various populations? How long can they reasonably expect to live? Now we have to talk about, first we have to talk about the country's population. This is one of the examples. Second example can be, how can we tell how old a tree, a horse or a rock? They have given the examples of these two things. Third, we can talk about what is the life expectancy. Life expectancy means till what time or what age do you think a person would be living, or a thing would be, not a thing, probably an animal or an insect would be living, of various living things and various populations. I will give you this paragraph because this is a big paragraph. I'll give you the example, a sample. You can write on your own in your own words. This is a big paragraph. I'll quickly write down for you.
So answer number 2. The age profile of a country depends on whether a majority of its people are young or old. The country's efficiency and development depend on whether it has more young people. If the majority of the population consists of elderly people, then more age-old security schemes, pension benefits, and medical facilities are requested. Because of modern advanced medical facilities, the life expectancy of a person has increased, right? Further, that is why we find a greater percentage of older people. Now, comparatively, so several non-working people increases. Scientists are aware that all such things as trees, horses and rocks, etc. are made up of carbon. By using the technique of radiocarbon isotope dating, we can find out how old a particular specimen is. The life expectancy of various living things depends on the species to which they belong. A few creatures have a very little life expectancy. Their age can be a few hours or days. Certain animals or things have a much longer life expectancy. The average life expectancy of human being is 60 to 70 years, right? So this is the answer. I'll quickly speak the answer for you. The age profile of a country depends on whether a majority of its people are young or old. The country's efficiency and development depend on whether it has more young people. If the majority of the population consists of elderly people, then more age-old security schemes, pension benefits and medical facilities are requested. Because of modern advanced medical facilities, the life expectancy of a person has increased. That is why we find a greater percentage of older people now comparatively. So several non-working people increases. Scientists are aware that all such things as trees, horses and rocks etc. are made up of carbon. By using the technique of radiocarbon isotope dating, we can find out how old a particular specimen is. The life expectancy of various living things depends on the species to which they belong. A few creatures have a very little life expectancy. Their age can be a few hours or days. Certain animals or things have a much longer life expectancy. The average life expectancy of human being is 60 to 70 years. Right?
Alright, so what is this delivery delayed? When the postman arrived at the royal household to deliver the mail, he was surprised to find a new vicious dog. The dog was fastened to a tree by a leash just long enough to reach the front door. The dog growled and bared its teeth, but the postman managed to outwit the dog and reach the front door safely. How? Now you can find the answer on page number 125. How did the postman manage to outwit the dog? This is a small, a fun exercise, a fun question you can say. With this, we come to the end of the chapter. I hope you have understood the chapter of this magic potion. It was interesting enough. It gave us the idea about a few trees which are really, really old, and how a specimen or how a potion can be made, as in what are the recipe of to make a magic potion. However, it is only possible in 6 steps. Alright kids, I hope you've enjoyed this chapter.